Hi everybody, it's Chris Dunaway coming back at you for the class. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Ron Strahan with the LSU AgCenter. He's going to be teaching us about weeds, what they are, how to identify them, and how to control them. So let's take it away with Dr. Ron Strahan.
It's Ron Strahan, the LSU AgCenter. I'm a weed scientist, and I'm going to talk to you today about weed management in your vegetable gardens. First of all, if you start tilling up an area, you're going to have weed pressure. Weeds are going to start germinating in those areas. The thing about weeds is they're competing with our plants for some limited resources. They're competing for nutrients, for water, and they also will shade out your plants. The thing is, we fertilize our gardens. We may also be fertilizing weeds. So the idea here is to understand weeds, a little bit about the biology of the plants. First of all, we have broadleaves, and a broadleaf, as the name implies, but not always to your eyes, has a wide leaf. Not always to your eyes, but if you looked at it under a microscope, you would see veins running in different directions on a broadleaf. Also, another thing about a broadleaf is it makes showy flowers. Now, this is sow thistle, and it's somewhat common. You start tilling some soil up, you'll start seeing sow thistle, but it's a broadleaf. It has somewhat wide leaves and veins going in different directions. This just happens to be an annual. Here in these begonias, you may also see another broadleaf. The leaves are not so wide on it. This is Eclipta, and you can see it's also making a showy flowers, trying to attract insects for pollination. Here in this begonia pot, we have an infestation of Asiatic hawksbeard, also a broadleaf. Notice the veins going in different directions. And also notice the showy flowers. Again, it's trying to attract insects for pollination. Now, as that flower matures, it becomes kind of a puff ball of seeds. And this is in the dandelion family. And these seeds become parachutes and they fly through the air. So this is a broadleaf. With all these weeds, they're going to be competing with your crop. So this just happens to be a begonia, but that could be a tomato plant, or that could be sweet corn. You know, the thing is, weeds are competing for nutrients, for water. They'll also shade out your plants. They can potentially grow over your plants, like this Eclipta here could actually grow over this plant. Food production occurs in the leaves of plants. That's photosynthesis. And if these plants grow over your plants, sunlight can't get to the leaves of your plants, and sunlight is an important component of photosynthesis. So that's broadleaves. There are lots of different broadleaves in your gardens. We're growing mainly broadleaves. We're growing butter beans. We're growing tomatoes. So you're growing broadleaves, and you have weeds that are broadleaves infesting your tomatoes. Now, you may also have some grass plants. So I have a couple of grass plants here, and this just happens to be a goosegrass right here. See, this is the seed head of goosegrass. This is actually the flower of a goosegrass plant, of a grass plant. And so it's not showy. It's not really trying to attract insects for pollination. But this grass plant, another thing about it is, I mentioned on broadleaves the veins go in different directions, but on a grass plant, the veins run parallel. And you can see they're not going in different directions. They're running parallel. And so this is a grass plant. We also have a crabgrass here, and this is the flower of the crabgrass. These are both annual grasses. Annual grasses. And crabgrass also, if you notice the veins on the leaves, the veins are also running parallel. Unlike a broadleaf, the veins run different directions on a broadleaf. So the thing about grasses and broadleaves, if they're annuals, they're going to produce lots and lots of seeds. This grass plant here, this crabgrass, can produce about 10,000 seeds per plant, and they have longevity in the soil. The seeds have longevity in the soil. This crabgrass will germinate in February or March, grow throughout the summer, and as it starts producing seeds, we get into the fall, it'll die back and drop the seeds down, and that's next year's crop, and several years worth of crops, because the seeds can live for a good while in the soil. So we have broadleaves, we have grasses. We also have another category, and that category is sedges. Sedges. Now, this is purple nut sedge. Purple nut sedge is the #1 ranked weed problem in the world. #1 in the world. It looks like a grass plant, but it's not a grass. It's a sedge, a completely different family than grasses. This is the Cyperaceae family. And sedges, as I mentioned, this purple nut sedge is ranked #1 in the world of all crops, the #1 weed problem of all crops. So it's very hard to get rid of it. This is a perennial. It produces underground storage organs, like this tuber right here, that allows this plant to come back from year to year. It's a warm season perennial that will be burned back by frost and cold weather. But as we warm back up, it comes back out, and it sprouts from these tubers that are in the soil. When you hand remove it, you leave the tubers in the soil, and it'll come right back. So it's very hard to get rid of. You get temporary satisfaction usually when you hand remove it. Now, another thing about sedges, grasses can have round or flat stems. Sedges have triangular stems. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a triangular stem right here, and I'm going to cut that stem and show you what I'm talking about. And you can see that it's more of a triangle. Again, grasses are going to have flat stems, or they're going to have round stems. So this is more of a triangular stem. It's not a grass, even though it looks like a grass. So we talked a lot about some of the weeds you might see in the field, some of the characteristics that will help you identify. Now let's go out into the field and look at some of the weeds that will be infesting your vegetable gardens. So this is a real common grass plant that you may see infesting your gardens. This is goosegrass. See the flower of the goosegrass, the seed production that's occurring, a tremendous seed producer. It's a grass plant. We have a broadleaf plant here right beside it, and that's the sow thistle I was mentioning earlier. It's a broadleaf. See the veins going in different directions. We also have a pigweed right here. Pigweed is also a broadleaf. This is the flower of pigweed. Not showy to your eyes, but showy to an insect. Notice the veins going in different direction. Pigweed is a tremendous seed producer. It's an annual. There's a tremendous seed producer, produces up to 1 million seeds, and the seeds have great longevity in the soil. They can live for 30 to 50 years. So pigweed is a big, big problem, and you don't want to allow this plant to produce seeds, because it's going to produce crops, a crop of seeds for generations to come. So we may also see another a perennial grass. That we've been talking about annual grasses, but there are also perennial grasses too, and this is Bermuda grass. And Bermuda grass is a perennial grass that also produces seeds, but mainly creeps into areas. It's very hard to get rid of. It's very hard to hand remove. It just breaks off in your hand when you try to remove it. This is also a grass plant. If you could see really well, you'd see that the veins are running in parallel with this grass plant. But this has underground storage organs that makes it a perennial plant. It has rhizomes that run underground. This is a big problem in flower beds, and it's a big problem in vegetable gardens too. It's a grass plant. Contrast that with this soybean, which is a broadleaf crop actually in this case. So another common plant, broadleaf plant, it's another annual that you're going to find growing in your vegetable garden, is common purslane. Common purslane. There's a cultivated type of purslane that makes pretty flowers. This one really doesn't make a pretty flower. So common purslane is a broadleaf, and it starts germinating in March, and now it's starting to flower here and produce a crop of seed. So another tremendous seed producer that forms a mat in our vegetable gardens. But this is common purslane, a broadleaf. So we also have sedges that are big issues in gardens, and you can see right here that this is purple nutsedge. Notice the flower of the purple nutsedge. See the sedges here attacking in numbers. It does produce a few viable seed, but it's mainly reproducing underground with tubers. So you till the soil, you're not getting rid of it. You hand remove it, you're not getting rid of it, because it produces all these tubers. It's the #1 weed problem in the world for a reason. So these are just some of the weeds you may see growing in your vegetable garden. So another broadleaf that you might see, and this is very common in gardens, you start tilling ground or even in these raised beds, you'll notice a spurge. Now this is prostrate spurge, also a broadleaf. It's an annual, tremendous seed producer. This is one that doesn't hand pull very well, even though it is an annual. It tends to break off and it comes right back from the stem. It's a tremendous seed producer, as I mentioned earlier. It will germinate from a seed, and about 3 weeks later, that plant that germinated from a seed in good growing conditions is able to start producing seeds. So you get a lot of turnover in a flower bed. You'll have a plant germinating, 3 weeks later it's producing seeds. You can get a lot of seed production occurring in your vegetable garden. So that's prostrate spurge, and this is hyssop spurge. Hyssop spurge is a taller growing plant than the prostrate spurge. Same characteristics. It's a tremendous seed producer as well. It's also an annual. But all of these spurges, when you break them open, they produce this milky sap that you'll see running out. Spurges produce this milky sap. An identifying characteristic is that sap that it produces. But this is one that doesn't really hand pull very well, so you got to really work at it to get it out of the soil. So we talked about weeds competing with your vegetable crops that you're growing, and if you have a lot of weeds present, it's definitely going to hurt your yields. You're not going to yield as much. There's also potential for diseases and insects to go from weeds to your crop, your tomatoes or your butter beans, peas, and so we want to make sure we get rid of weeds. And so there's different methods for weed control. If you have a small garden, one of the most practical things is to hand remove, and so you just take a weed and try to uproot it as best you can. It doesn't always work. It sometimes breaks off and you have to go back and get it again. But this is an annual, and with most annuals you can hand remove them. Like this big weed is gone now, and I just usually get rid of it, throw it in a bag or something and just get rid of it. Something like a purple nutsedge, though, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't hand remove very well. You don't always get these tubers. Like I'm sure I left tubers in the soil that this plant's going to come back from. Again, number one weed problem in the world. You're probably not going to be able to just hand remove it and get rid of it. So hand removing is definitely an option. Now my research associate Dave Sexton is going to demonstrate another method, and that's just hoeing it out. Again, the ultimate goal with hoeing is to try to uproot the weeds and chop around your plants, and that also provides a little bit of oxygen to the system there when you do that. So he's again trying to uproot the plants, and then he's getting rid of it, and it's a good method for weed control. And on a larger scale, bigger gardens, hoeing is definitely an option for you. So another method of weed control is cultivation or tillage, and the way a tiller works is similar to what the hoe is doing. It's uprooting weeds, and Dave here is going to demonstrate how the tiller works and how it uproots, and some of the flaws to tilling and hoeing. So go ahead, Dave. So it does do a good job of loosening the soil. It uproots some of the annuals, but this was actually an area where we have Bermuda grass, and Bermuda grass is very hard to get rid of by tillage. In fact, we're chopping up this Bermuda grass, making smaller plants, and that will increase the problem. Now, so that's something to consider when you're tilling. Annuals really do till up pretty well, but something like a perennial, like a sedge, are not going to till up very well, going to make new plants. Something like this chamber bitter seedling right here, you could actually uproot it and do a good job of killing it. So the tiller works pretty well on annual plants, but with perennial plants it's not going to be as good, and that's when you might consider using another method of weed control for a perennial plant, and we're going to talk about that next. So mulches can also be a very effective method of weed management. The way mulches work is they smother out weeds. You can put them on top of weeds and smother them out. And you can also, some of these weed seed need light for germination, and it kind of protects the seed from getting light. You'll also notice that you just have less germination overall when you have different kinds of mulches. And those mulches can be grass clippings or hay or pine bark media or pine straw. They work really well, and they provide a barrier that really is kind of hard for weeds to come through. But there are certain weeds that will come right through it, like purple nutsedge. Again, the number one weed problem in the world has no problem finding its way through a mulch eventually. You'll get some temporary control with a mulch, but weeds like purple nutsedge will come right through it. So mulches, again, are very, very effective at keeping weeds down, but you're going to have a hard time with the perennial weeds like nutsedge and Bermuda grass too. Bermuda grass is going to find its way through the mulch. It's a crawling type plant. It's a perennial grass, highly invasive, loves the environment in the New Orleans area, hot, humid weather. It's native of Africa. It's going to thrive in a raised bed like this or any other area it wants to grow. So this is just a perennial grass that's going to come right through the mulch. But mulch is very effective. It holds moisture pretty well around your plants, and is also a barrier that is difficult for weeds to grow through. So plastic mulch is also another way to manage weeds, and this is kind of gaining popularity now. We've had a lot of rain, and And this area hasn't been planted yet, but you can see the water standing here. But very simply, you would come in, cut holes, and transplant your tomatoes or whatever it is you're going to be planting in these areas. But as you can see, this will be a very good barrier to weeds. It will also hold moisture in. You'd run your drip tape and your fertilizer underneath. And this is just a method that has gained popularity. But I tell you, you mentioned the #1 weed problem in the world, purple nut sedge. That's the one weed that's going to penetrate this plastic and come right through it. But overall, this is one of the best ways to cut down on weed pressure in a vegetable garden, plastic culture. Okay, so we have a lot of weed pressure. Maybe you're starting your garden now, and you have a lot of perennial grasses perhaps in there, maybe some perennial broadleaves like, perennial grasses like Bermuda grass or possibly torpedo grass in your vegetable garden area. It's always good to start off clean. Now, that's where herbicides come in. Herbicides are weed killers, and it's really your choice if you want to use them. They're organic and they're inorganic. There are post-emergence herbicides and there are pre-emergence herbicides. But to start off clean with that vegetable garden, especially with perennial grasses, it's always good to spray something like Roundup. Roundup has the active ingredient glyphosate. It has no soil life. When it hits the soil, it binds to the soil and deactivates. So it's not going to affect you planting anything back in it. You could plant in 1 to 3 days, but according to the product labels, and always read the product labels before you use these products. But when you spray this, you could actually plant back 1 to 3 days later with this particular product right here. And the thing about it though is I don't like to disturb an area when I've sprayed it with glyphosate, because it hits the leaves of plants and moves down into the lower portion, into the rhizome areas, the underground storage organs, the perennial part of the plant. And that's why this product is so good at killing perennial grasses like torpedo grass and Bermuda grass. But it's non-selective. Whatever you spray it on, it's going to either kill or hurt it substantially. So you wouldn't spray this in your vegetable garden. So that's a non-selective herbicide. It really works well burning down that area before you plant. It only works by uptake through the leaves or through green stems. So it's not going to work through the soil, it works through the leaves. So you need green plant material when you spray it. So that's Roundup with the active ingredient with glyphosate. There are other names out there, generic type products that are also glyphosate that could be used to burn down your vegetable garden area prior to planting. And it works really, really well on perennial grasses and perennial broadleaves and annuals too. But you don't get anything that's going to stop weeds from coming back with this product. It kills what's there, but doesn't stop anything from coming back. And I always say, when you kill a plant, 1,000,000 will come to the funeral, so get ready. When you start stirring the soil, you're going to have a lot of weed pressure, a lot of weeds emerging through that area. Now, we have selective herbicides too, and this is a grass killer only. And this can actually be sprayed over the top of several different vegetable plants. You would always, of course, read the product labels, see which ones could be sprayed over the top of. But it's highly, highly effective on grasses like crabgrass or goosegrass and Johnson grass. It would be good on that. So for unwanted grasses, this is a selective herbicide with the active ingredient sethoxidin. There are several different trade names out there. There's a trade name called Post, P-O-A-S-T. There's this grass beater product. There's Fertilome over the top too. They all have the active ingredient sethoxidin, and they're all very good at killing grasses. So you could spray this right over the top of tomatoes. You wouldn't hurt your tomatoes. It would only kill the grasses that are infesting your tomatoes. So it's not going to kill the broadleaves. It's not going to kill the sedges, the nut sedge, or anything like that in your tomatoes. It's just going to kill the grasses that are infesting your tomatoes. And if you have a large garden, this is a really nice tool to have. Spray it over the top of your vegetables, just kill the grasses, and your broadleaf crop won't even know it. So that's this sethoxidin product right here. So we have these post-emergence herbicides right here that are pretty effective. You might consider putting a surfactant or spreader sticker with it to help it adhere to the leaves. Again, always read the product label to see if it's required. This is a spreader sticker. It just helps that droplet spread out on the leaf. So that's a very common thing, to add a spreader sticker to some of these herbicides that you see. Now, there are also pre-emergence herbicides. And the one that we use in vegetable gardens is the active ingredient trifluoralin. And this is just a brand right here that's out there from a big box store. But the active ingredient is trifluoralin, and this is a pre-emergence herbicide. It works on germinating seeds. It's very effective on small seeded broadleaves, and very good on annual grasses like crabgrass and goosegrass. It's very good on spurge and purslane. Pre-emergence, in other words, it's killing them before you see them. And in the product label in the back here, tells you exactly how to use this product in your vegetable gardens. The active ingredient trifluralin, a trade name that's out there, is Treflan. It's a pre-emergence herbicide. There are several vegetables that are on the product label where this particular product that contains trifluralin, this is a granule that could be spread out, lightly tilled in, and then you transplant or you plant seeds in there. It's a very effective herbicide. It's a pre-emergence option. These are all synthetic herbicides right here. Now, some people don't want to use synthetic products, and so there are some organic products that are out there. And many of these organic products, they're all non-selective if they're post-emergence, so they won't know your vegetable plant from a weed. But the way these products work is that you spray them, it hits the foliage of the weeds, and it burns them. And it works pretty well on small annual weeds. Now, it doesn't work very well on perennial plants because it doesn't move throughout the plant. But it's very good at burning young annuals. We've had great success burning young annuals with these products, and this is just one of the many trade names that are out there. This is citrus oil and clove oil together. It has a great smell and will burn down really small annual plants, especially in your vegetable garden, as a directed spray. Whatever drifts onto your vegetables will be burned. It will burn the leaves of your vegetables, so you got to be really careful with it. So this is one of the many products that are out there. There's also ammoniated soapy products that are out there that will burn leaves, the leaves of your vegetable plants, and it'll do a pretty good job on small, actively growing annuals. We've had really good luck with this product right here called Scythe. It's polygonic acid. This is another one that you mix with water and you spray it. It's a non-selective herbicide that will burn back the weeds, and if it's an annual, a young annual that's not well developed, you can burn it and kill it. So we've had pretty good luck with it. So these are all post-emergence products. They're organic. Vinegar would be another option out there. But just always remember, whatever drifts onto your vegetable plants will also burn your vegetables, because these are non-selective. They're not selective herbicides. So there is a pre-emergence option, and that's corn gluten. And you can see the tomatoes right here. And we've evaluated corn gluten. Corn gluten has an enzyme that prevents germination. And this is, according to the product label, supposed to last about 30 days or so after you put it out. It's a granule that you put out. And in our research trials, we get about 2 weeks out of it, of holding weeds back. And then as it breaks down, it becomes fertilizer. And as the weeds germinate, it actually fertilizes the weeds. So you'd have to apply this fairly often. Always read the product label. It'll tell you how to put it out and how much to put out. So there are some pre-emergence options that are organic. There's post-emergence options that are organic, and then there are synthetic herbicides that are out there. And the one weed that you can really do a pretty good job with are annual grasses, using this synthetic herbicide that has the active ingredient sethoxidam. So we do have some tools, chemical tools for controlling weeds, and again, it's your choice to use them. On a bigger scale, if you have a large garden, these products may be more practical for you. So we talked about several different methods for managing weeds in a vegetable garden, and the thing is, you're probably going to end up using multiple methods and using them together, implementing all of these methods as best you can. So we have multiple ways to control weeds. We have herbicides, we have hand removal, we have hoeing them out, we have tillage, and we have the plastic culture, different kinds of mulches. It may take all these methods to really control the weeds, depending on your operation or your vegetable garden. So that's a little bit about how to take care of the weeds in your vegetable garden. This is Ron Strahan with the LSU AgCenter.
All right, that was really informative. Thank you very much, Dr. Strahan. Now remember, class, you should post your questions to the online message board and check with the website for the class to find extra information and information that can help you along your way to having a successful garden. So bye-bye for now.